What is going on, everybody? What is going on, the Catch fam? It is Steven here, and in today's video, we are going to be breaking down the must-start kickers for your fantasy football teams going into week one of the 2023 fantasy football season. Man, it feels amazing to be able to say that again and to have fantasy football back in our lives. If you are new to the Catch this year, we certainly encourage you to hit that subscribe button below and join the best community in all of fantasy football. But we also encourage you to get in those comments and leave any questions you have or leave any feedback. But more importantly, get in there and leave those questions about who to start at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, and defense. And we will go in there and we will answer it as fast as possible to help you dominate your opponents on a weekly basis, because that is what we want to do here at the Catch. But with all that said, let's get into it. Let's get into the must-start kickers for your fantasy football teams going into week one. But number one, we're talking about Justin Tucker, the GOAT himself. And I mean, ladies and gentlemen, is it really any surprise that Justin Tucker is in the must-start kicker video list? But when you really start breaking it down and start looking at this a little bit closer, this Ravens offense is going to be more explosive, more aggressive, more pass-oriented than they were last year, which I think are going to be all factors that support a even better Justin Tucker, who was already number 2 last season. Going up against the Houston Texans, it's around a 44-point over-under. I think it probably stays at that level. But I think the Ravens are going to be able to put Tucker, the man, in a lot of opportunities to get those field goals, whether it be point after attempts, because Lamar Jackson is running like all crazy on this Houston Texans defense, or they're just getting these 30, 40-yard field goals to add up. I think Tucker's going to be a double-digit locked and loaded guarantee in week one. And I think if you were lucky enough to draft him, you got to do it. And if you were able to somehow get him on the waivers, you got to do it, because he's going to be a dominant player week one and will be a dominant kicker all season long, and he should probably be in top 3 rankings again when the season's done at the kicker position. Number 2, we got to talk about Daniel Carlson, my favorite kicker in the league, ladies and gentlemen. He was number 1 in rankings last season. This dude is just addicted to deep field goals. That's all he can do. He just hit a 60-plus yard field goal in the preseason, and he made it look like walking a puppy in the park. I mean, this guy is fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. You got to do it and put him in your lineups week one. You got to draft him first, honestly. That's what I would encourage you to do. Draft him above everyone. Draft him above Patrick Mahomes, because going up against the Denver Broncos week one, this interdivision matchup is always a juicy surprise for the kicker position. It's around a low 40-point over-under, but I think Carlson's going to be needed even more this season for the Raiders team, which loses Derek Carr to replace with Jimmy Garoppolo, who has been known his whole life to be pretty average, pretty mediocre. So I think the touchdown rate goes down a little bit, and I think Carlson's needed even more for those deep shots. He is going to thrive all season long, and I think that starts week one at the 40 to 50-yard field goal range. Number 3, we're talking about a dude who just gained in popularity last season. We're talking about Jason Myers for the Seattle Seahawks, number 4 kicker last season ranking-wise, and I think this year he's got a real chance to make himself a household name, because he was available basically on the waivers way too long last year. I don't think that's going to be the case this season. And he starts off hot against the Los Angeles Rams, which is one of the worst defenses, I think, in the league this year. They are hot Swiss garbage. It's a 47-point over-under right now in the Seattle Seahawks-LA Rams game. And I think this could be a barn burner. Potentially could be the highest scoring game week one, even more than the Kansas City Chiefs game, which is right now predicted as the highest over-under total. But I think that with Jason Myers to pair up with Geno Smith, Jackson Smith-Njigba, even though he's going to be hurt week one, you got Metcalf, you got Lockett, you got Zach Charbonnet, you got Kenneth Walker, you got so many options on this offense. I think there's just going to be such a high, heavy point total. And I think Jason Myers is going to be put in a ton of great positions against the LA Rams. He's an absolute locked and loaded stream week one, and I'm going to be seeking him out in all my own personal leagues too, because he is just absolutely fantastic, and I've got to have as many of my Myers shares as possible. Next, we're talking about a guy who is household name, but had a bad season last year. So what's going on with him? Harrison Butker for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was injured all last season. He struggled with injuries. It was really sad to see a true legend fall from the graces of kingdom at the kicker position. But I think he's going to come back better than ever, healthier so far, right? And I think he's going to come back. He's going to stay healthy, and he's going to be needed this year, because this Kansas City Chiefs offense, which just won the Super Bowl, and they cut it out with no receivers. Well, they lost even more receivers, with losing Juju in the offseason. Kadarius Toney, you never know if he's going to stay healthy. I think Harrison Butker is going to be super needed all season long, and it's going to start week one against the Detroit Lions. 54-point over-under. This is the highest over-under right now, and I think both offenses are going to come out screaming like a couple of animals. and they're going to open up a ton of points, right? I mean, Harrison Bucker is going to be able to shine week one against the Detroit Lions. We are going to see Patrick Mahomes slice up this Detroit Lions defense, especially the secondary. It's pretty gross. It's pretty disgusting. And I think Mahomes is going to move the ball up and down the field. And I think you are going to see Bucker thrive again this year, and especially in this game around that 40 to 50-yard mark, which he has made a career killing on, guys. So locked and load him, put him in your lineups. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted because he is such a household name. But if he does slip out of your drafts, you got to play him. You got to play him because this is a great opportunity. Up at number 5, we're talking about the myth, the man, the legend, the guy who just gets it done, Younghoe Koo for the Atlanta Falcons, the Dome legend. That's right, guys, the Dome legend. That's important because what we seek out at the kicker position is to avoid weathers, especially later on in the season. So if you are somebody who doesn't stream kickers and only draft kickers, well, I hope you drafted a dome kicker because that's very critical towards the back half of the year. But even in week one, it's important to have a dome kicker, and that's what you're going to get in Younghoe Koo going against the Carolina Panthers. Low 40s over under right now. I think both offenses are going to struggle, but we could see a little bit more explosiveness out of this Falcons offense, which I think is going to be better than people think, with Mr. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts all attacking the Carolina Panthers defense. I think Younghoe Koo is going to get more opportunities this year and more opportunities week one than he did last season. And I think that is going to set up for a fantastic performance, guys. So he is absolutely a locked and loaded must-start kicker for your fantasy football teams. And with that said, guys, this has been the must-start kickers for your fantasy football teams going into week one. Like we said at the top, make sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure to get in those comments so we can know who you're starting on a weekly basis and give you any sort of feedback and answer your questions about who to start at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, or defense on a weekly basis to help you dominate your opponents. But with all that said, thank you for watching, and remember, you saw it here first at the catch.